We are pleased to be joined by Greg Powers, our Director of Recruiting here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Hi, Greg.
What's up?
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. I'm so glad to see you because this is, of course, Monday, and on Monday we always have you in the studio.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
A little different this week, though, right?
Yeah, because I'm Greg Tepper. That's Greg Powers. This is This Week
in Barbecue.
That's right.
Psych. Got him.
That's right.
Producing.
That's This Week in Barbecue with Greg Powers, our chief barbecue correspondent here on Texas Football Today.
I think recruiting and barbecue, you could just flip them, pickle. Yeah. They fit together, right? Like, it could be This Week in Cruton, it could be This Week in Barbecue, but I just wanted to say barbecue.
Well, to be fair, there are scholarships for them to continue on their education to the next level. So, like, it is the same thing.
It does feel like there's a lot of overlap between like the skills it takes to be a great football player and the skills it takes to be a great barbecue artist, which is what I'll refer to, or barbecue pitmaster.
There's some crossover.
What are the people who are the barbecue teams like to call themselves? Like barbecue athletes?
You know, I actually struggled with that this weekend in my mind as I was,
competitors.
Like I was talking to I said student athletes.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Yeah, competitors, student athletes. I think they're athletes.
In a certain way.
I felt it like an athlete. I know that.
Because you were, to give people some background, you were in Granite Shoals, Texas this weekend for the Texas High School Barbecue State Championships. How many years in a row is this for you now?
This is my 5th year in a row.
That's awesome.
And so you were down there, as our correspondent. Thank you for your brave coverage here. And so, first and foremost, because we went to the first one, we were kind of helped. We were there when you had your gateway drug, right?
Yep. You helped cause my addiction.
Atlanta in 2021. How has it changed since the first time you went?
Well, this is a new location this year at Granite Shoals. They were been at Round Rock at Del Diamond over the last couple years. The barbecue championships has continued to grow in popularity. I think this was the largest amount of teams that they've ever had. They had 114 teams qualify this year. 109 teams competed. So High School Barbecue Inc., the Schoenfelds over there do a tremendous job running the event, and it's just like a labor of love for the board members and all the teams that compete. To get to state in barbecue, you have to qualify, and there's a lot of work and a lot of time invested. You can't just smoke a brisket really fast.
No.
So there's a lot of early mornings and late nights that the kids put in to be really good at this. And I have to say, 5 years in a row, that's at least 200 judged bites of barbecue. I've yet to taste something that I didn't want to have again.
Okay, so this year, and here you are judging, once again, your 5th consecutive year of being a judge there at this Texas High School Barbecue State Championships. That's a man in love.
Oh, yes.
What did you judge this year?
So I do chicken and ribs every year.
Okay.
That's the thing. I've done brisket one year, but I prefer to go out among the teams during the brisket competition so that I can talk to the teams, talk to them about how they did on the previous 4 categories. And all right, to try briskets.
Yeah, of course, right? Because
and you're getting brisket right like as it's being cut if you're out there.
Well, you do wait for them to turn it in, but then after
because they're turning in the choice cuts, right? The best stuff that they can do, and so you were out there among them. Is the smell just the best thing in the world out there?
Oh, you could smell it I think we started smelling it from like 4 miles out. Oh, that's when I was like, I smell barbecue. When you pulled up, and Pickle's familiar with the area, when you pull up to there, you're kind of dropping in, so you can see the park. So you could see the smoke and the barbecue and the tents from a little bit of a distance, and the anticipation was really building up. And I thought the park did a tremendous job with hosting the event this year. I loved the layout because it was easy to get to the teams and the judging. You didn't have to walk as far for me personally, so I got to interact with a lot more teams. And right here, you're looking at last year's state champions. This is Ingleside, and this is the hardware that they took home for winning grand champions last season.
Let's go.
And this,
That is amazing. Okay, so tell me about these rigs, because I've got a smoker at my house, but it's nothing special. You're looking at these like rigs that these guys are bringing out, and these are like professional grade. That could show up at a barbecue restaurant, like an elite tier barbecue restaurant. You'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, no doubt. And the teams are coached. They usually have an advisor or coach or a culinary chef that helps them with that. But then they also, a lot of them go to the shop teachers, and it's just a lot of the people in the school can come together and help support. And even like these trophies, that thanks to the sponsors and stuff that go out there and support it, because a lot of this stuff is donated. Nolan Ryan donated the meat, so there was some pretty cool stuff that former Texas Rangers pitcher there.
Yeah, I'm familiar with his work. Okay, so you judge the chicken first, right?
Yeah.
Because they start off with, if I remember correctly, like beans and dessert goes first before they start getting into the meats.
Yeah, dessert goes first. It's the easiest or the quickest to prepare. Then beans, then chicken, then ribs, then brisket. And I've learned something new to bring home to the guests of the fans of the high school barbecue championship. Something I didn't realize before. The teams have a lottery system to which they are allowed to pick their meat.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So 1 through 109, you pick a token, and that token allows you to go first or 109th. And when you're 109th,
It's whatever's left.
Slimmer pickings.
Right.
So there is some luck that's involved too on where you get to pick, and some talent and skill and just being able to pick out the right cuts of meat.
Right, because we talk about I think people may know this, we've mentioned on the show, like Texas Tech is like a meat judging juggernaut in collegiate meat judging. But
Lano was national championship 3 out of the 4 years I was in high school.
In meat judging? So there's an element of skill in that too, of being able to look at something and be like, that's the one that's going to produce the best product.
Right. And
some luck as far as if you're first, then you can choose among any of the briskets.
They didn't win this year, but Ingleside got the 5th pick.
Oh, wow.
And they were the returning champions.
Oh, wow.
But if you're the returning champions, you could have your cook could have been a senior, or your cook could have been a freshman.
Yeah.
You could be.
How big are these teams generally?
I think they're 5-people teams. Okay. I don't know if there's a maximum amount. I think there might be. I think you're allowed to have. I think it's a 5-person max.
It does get into the part literal too many cooks in the kitchen. I have
to check my barbecue notes to see.
And they also have, one of the things that I think is very interesting. These teams, the way these things are judged, you have the individual one that you can have the best beans and you can win first place in beans, but then there's also an all-around champion, correct? And there's all-around awards that are inclusive of all of the categories.
Well, you never know who wins the individual categories. I talked to the Ingleside gentleman that cooked the winning brisket last year, which I didn't know.
Oh,
right. Because you don't know as a judge, the boxes come in numbered. You don't know who you're judging. So this is under lock and key. It's a big secrecy because you don't want to show any preferential treatment. And that's also why you can't come and judge briskets after you've already tried the briskets.
Right. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Because then you might be able to recognize, that tastes like Ingleside, or that tastes like Lano.
So you want to keep your hands clear of that. So you really don't just think you go out and you pick and you have to get a big chicken. What if you had a giant chicken and you had to cook it compared to a smaller chicken? So there's an advantage there
for sure. Okay, let's talk. I want to go category by category here, because you judge chicken. Yep. How many chickens did you try?
10.
And you graded on a scale of 1 to 10, basically.
1 to 10, and 1 is inedible, 1 is inedible. I would say 1 to 4, you're probably spitting it out.
Right. Okay, 1 to 4 is spitting it out. What was, of the 10 that you tried, what was probably your average score on the chicken?
7. Because I had 2 5s this year.
You had 2 that were just that's not for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
2 5s. 1 was dry, 1 was a little undercooked.
Okay.
And that was the flavor was kind of on, but the judging was tougher because of that. And I only had 1 10. Last year I had 3 10s and chickens, and this year I pulled off 1 10.
You had 1 10?
So lowered my average a little bit.
Okay. So then, Okay, let me ask you a question. Then what was special about the 10? Like when you are now seasoned at this, is it just an I know a 10 when I taste it type thing, or was there something specific about that you're like, this is a 10?
I think what makes it a 10 is that it's definitely something that you would recommend to anybody, and you would say, hey, you know what, you have to try this. As a matter of fact, I think when you try 10, and you can see in some of the photos maybe, I think I try to purposely put like the one that I thought was the 10 that I judged in here, a photo of my reaction to it, kind of, because like it brings a certain joy to, if you love to eat barbecue, then it's just hits on a different level. And I would say that it is the texture is very important, and the flavor, the smokiness of it, and honestly not being over salted.
Is that the look?
I think that's it.
That's the 10.
That's some excellent producing right there.
That's how you know.
That's a 10 look.
That's a 10.
That's a 10.
There's your answer to your question.
Shout out to Rebecca Powers, by the way, our chief photographer as well. Okay, so then let's go to the ribs. And the ribs...
This is my favorite category, by the way.
The ribs are?
Definitively, easily.
Then tell me about your... Because you had 10, I presume? 10 more ribs? How do we feel about the ribs this year?
Well, first, I feel like I'm more qualified to judge ribs. Because I'm pretty good at smoking ribs. Like
I've had your ribs before,
so I can make some ribs. But the ribs can vary so much because West Texas uses a completely different type of wood, and East Texas uses, you know what I mean. So you really have a lot of different flavors coming together. It could be cherry wood, maple. You can experiment with all your rubs on top of the meats, and the ribs are my favorite because you're probably going to get more good bites. You know what I mean? Like I would say my average on ribs was probably 8.2.
Oh, wow.
And you don't have to do a dry rub or a wet rub, right? Not rub, but
right.
sauce.
You can inject it. You can, I mean, they're not going to brine it because there's not time. Right. I think they pick the meats up. The way I calculate it in my head to smoke a brisket, they get like 6-7 hours max.
Okay.
Probably a little bit less than that, I would guess.
And so you had some 10 ribs? I had 10 ribs. You had some 10s?
I had 3 10s in ribs.
3 10s. Wow, you were 10s. Living.
And there was one, and just because one's a 10 and another one's a 10, 110 could be better.
Right.
10's the max.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I had 110 out of the 3 that if I could have rated it a 20.
Really?
Oh, wow.
It was like among the best things you've ever eaten?
I think that was the photo.
Yeah, it was among one of the best things. Like when you say that, I'm thinking like that's one of the best things you've ever eaten.
I'm going to use Llano pickle to explain this.
Okay.
This is a good segue to where we could talk about Llano a little bit. The brisket that Landon Morrison from Llano cooked me that I tried at the end, better than any brisket that I've had in a restaurant.
Wow.
And Llano didn't place in the top 10, and I know you go through all categories. But that one bite of brisket is a bite that I'm going to be chasing for the rest of my life.
That's awesome.
Right? Like I'm never going to be able to try that brisket again.
Yeah.
And it's right up there with the Rockwall brisket that I tried 3 years. Rewind the tapes. 3 years ago, I had a brisket from Rockwall. Well, I found out. So one of the Rockwall teams placed third. I talked to the coach. He was the grand champion of brisket that year, and I didn't know it.
Oh, wow.
Until this year. So I have tried the grand champion and didn't know it.
And that is something that sticks in your brain. It's like, now you know. I mean, that's probably good context for you. If you can say, I now know what a grand champion brisket tastes like.
Yeah, and there's a lot of tips. I mean, turn-in time is important because your brisket's going to taste different cold than it is warm. So it's going to be a little less salty at that point. So there's just like a lot of strategy, a lot of luck.
It's a sport.
It's strategy, luck, like rules, everything.
I think the most difficult part from the 2 times that I went of looking at the brisket too was you've basically got to cut that entire thing up and then select the good one. So you're running out of heat there too, because it's like they take so long to cut them, rightfully so. And it's like, man, you're really having to choose which piece of meat looks the best.
And the teammate aspect of it too, like the teamwork aspect of it, because when your team comes together, I imagine when you first, now trust me, I'm not getting up at 4 a.m. to watch this part of the event. I love the event, but 4 a.m.
not that much.
Recruiting guys are more likely to stay up until 4 a.m. versus getting up at 4 a.m. But I would imagine the teamwork aspect is really important at that point because you got to have somebody that trims the brisket, right? Like that's got to be their specialty to trim that brisket.
Cutting the ribs would be the
Oh, yeah.
That would be the scariest one for me.
I remember that's one of the real core memories for me of when we did this in 2021 was watching the ribs being cut and when I tell you, like, the stress level on the person cutting the ribs was like, I mean, that's like high pressure stuff. We talk about big time players making big time plays at big time moments. That's a big time moment for that barbecue team. It's like, I have to cut this. I know this is the middle rib. I know that if I cut this right, this can be a winner. I can't screw it up here.
If you love Texas, this is an event you should try.
Yeah.
I mean, they do a tremendous job. Everybody involved is very wholesome. All the teams work so hard, and I never talked to one person there that didn't say yes, sir, or yes, ma'am. Like, it's really, really impressive. Shout out to all the teams who competed, their coaches, and their parents for raising such a respectful generation. It really is makes you feel optimistic.
Absolutely. Who won? I don't think I have the email.
Oh, I sent it to your work.
Oh, got it. Sent to my slide. All right. In third place, from Rockwall High School, 205 Pit Masters, Dr. Gene Butin College and Career Academy, which I think is a magnet school there in Rockwall. They came in third place. In second place, OG Barbecue from South Lake Carroll. South Lake Carroll comes in second place. And your winner, your grand champion of the 2025 Texas High School Barbecue State Champions, Bad to the Bone Smokers from Laredo, Alexander. Coming up from Laredo to take home the crown. Bad to the Bone Smokers from Laredo, Alexander, your grand champions of the 2025 Texas High School Barbecue State Championships.
I got to think that I'm kicking myself because Laredo Alexander was right next to me for
what could have been.
I could have potentially tried the championship brisket, but they did a tremendous job. I love their setup. Their rig looked really cool, and obviously they know how to smoke some meats.
It was looks like a great time down there at the Texas High School Barbecue State Championship. Did they invite you back?
I'm invited back, and I have a challenge for our listeners.
Oh,
right.
Oh,
okay.
One shot.
If you're a Texas high school football coach,
yeah,
and you're interested to go to the 2026 Texas High School Barbecue State Championships, get at me and let's see if we can make this happen. I'm going to try to see if there's one coach that wants to go that we can make it happen. I know that this invite will get heard.
Yeah.
Let's see what it'll be fun. Let's see what and make sure that you enjoy, like, barbecue's your thing, right? Like, you want to test it against your own self. If you're a talented barbecue chef, let's roll down to the championships together and give it a go.
Okay. He's Greg Powers. Aside from being our director of recruiting, he's also our chief barbecue correspondent. Congratulations again on another great year. Congratulations to you.
Thanks for sending me down there, boss.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate that.